Hello, welcome to the Discovery Foundation Robot Week Maker Lab, How to Build Your mBot. We are so happy you're here. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Ktunaxa, the Sioux, and the Sinixt people, and is home to the Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land and rivers and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. Discovery Foundation Robot Week is brought to you by CAST, the Kootenai Association of Science and Technology, youth program GLOWS, Growing and Learning Opportunities with STEAM. STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. Since 1998, CAST has led our region's economic development through technology and innovation. We are the only nonprofit tech association serving the entire Kootenai region. Our main offerings are the Venture Acceleration Program, the Nelson Innovation Center, and our youth program, GLOWS. I'm Tanya Malcolm, GLOWS Program Manager. Also on the webinar is CAST's Community Engagement Coordinator, Laura Vash, and our Maker Lab instructor, Sean Curran. He'll introduce himself once we get started. I would like to thank our partners at Livet, who have been instrumental in supporting us to move our programs online. We are so excited for you to experience their productions during Robot Week. Visit them at livet.earth. Robot Week was funded by the Discovery Foundation, whose mission is innovation, entrepreneurship, and education, for the purpose of stimulating the establishment and growth of scientific and technological industries, skills, and expertise. You can learn more at discoveryfoundation.ca. Before we start, I'd like to go over a few webinar tips and house rules. The chat is open for you to connect with one another and have fun. It's a safe space for conversations about robotics and the webinar. Good manners, respect, and a fun atmosphere is expected. The chat will be monitored, but it's not where you should ask our team questions. The Q&A box is a place for questions for Sean, our instructor. Depending on the type of question, we'll choose whether to interrupt Sean and ask the question at the time it's submitted, or to save it for when the Q&A is finished. For when the webinar is finished and there's a Q&A afterwards. We will not be using the raise hand tool. Don't forget, this webinar is being recorded and you will have a chance to view it online as much as you need before Discovery Foundation Robot Week begins next week, June 15th. We will send you the link to access the recording shortly after the webinar ends. My own kids just participated in this workshop last week. And now we have this very cool mBot cruising around our place. So let's build a robot. I will invite our instructor to take it from here.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, evening, everybody. Thanks so much for the warm welcome, Tanya. As Tanya mentioned, my name is Sean Curran, and I'm excited to be here from Selkirk College's Technology Access Center. We're gonna build the mBot robot today. It's gonna take anywhere between 30, 40, 45 minutes. As Tanya mentioned, this is being recorded. So if you get caught up or you need to look at some steps again, don't worry. It is being recorded so you can watch it again, but please do ask questions that are relevant as you need. So I'm very excited and happy to be welcomed here by CAST and the GLOWS program, and a shout out to the Discovery Foundation. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started and build our mBot robot. So in front of me here, I have the stuff from the kit. The first thing you'll notice is we have our screwdriver that comes with the kit. So this screwdriver is really neat because it's double-sided. So it'll flip out, turn around, and go back in. So what we're gonna use for our first few steps for the screwdriver is we're gonna use the star, the Phillips, or the cross bit, and that's the first bit that we're gonna use. Then partway through, I'm gonna instruct you, we're gonna turn it around and flip it around in order to use this hex side. So that's the first thing that we're gonna do. We got our screwdriver and we're gonna put it on the star or the cross or the Phillips, it's called, side. The other thing is I've got a little cup, a little dish here. It's not imperative, but it's good to just kind of keep all of our stuff together. I've got a pair of pliers that we're going to use for our first couple steps here. And then we've got our batteries for the mBot and the batteries for the remote control as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. We've got a PowerPoint of the assembly instructions of this building the mBot robot. So we're going to go through kind of step by step, a few steps at a time. I'll walk us through there, and then we're going to, sorry, I'm just going to put it on to full screen mode. There we go. So we'll go through the few steps, and as we go through the steps, I'm going to explain what these parts are, what they are, and how they operate your robot, what they're all about. So yeah, let's get right into it. So in the first step, we're going to take the blue or the pink, as you saw with Tanya's robot. We've got some are pink and some are blue, and we're going to take out what's called the chassis. The chassis is like the body of the robot, just like the body of a truck or a car. This is where the wheels and everything else is going to mount onto here, called the chassis. So we're going to go ahead and take that part. So the first couple steps here are some of the more difficult, more challenging steps of the mBot robot, because we're putting the motors on right from the beginning. So I'm going to go at a bit of a slower pace for these first few steps. So some of you might be done them right away and be waiting. That's okay. I want to go at a pace that lots of people can catch up. And the thing about it is, first we're putting on the one side, the left, and then we're putting on the right. So the steps are actually exactly the same. So we'll be running through these steps twice. So we'll pull out one of the motors. It says left or right. These motors are both the same. It's just what side we're putting on of the mBot robot. So we're going to go ahead and get one of these motors. At this point, you'll see that it's showing you assembling everything kind of from the bottom. It's the easiest to just flip it over, and then you're kind of dealing with all your work stuff right here. So that's really what we want to be doing. So in step 2, we're going to get a couple screws. We're going to get 2 of them. And these are the longest screws that are in your whole kit. They're these long ones called M3 by 25 millimeters. These are 25 millimeters long, which is about an inch. So you get longest couple here. And then in the next step, we're going to get a couple of these M3 nuts. So these are the nuts that are going to go on the back side of the bolts in order to hold on the motor. So what we're actually doing is, as you can see in step 3, we're going to put the motor into here. And there's a little white little motor piece that comes through, and this sits right in. You'll see it kind of connect and sit right in there. The 2 screws or bolts are going to go through here, and they might go right through, no problem, or you might need to take out the screwdriver and twist them to get in a little bit. Some of them go through just no problem. Some you have to do a little bit of twisting to hold that onto there. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to take the M3 nuts and we're going to put these onto the back of these bolts. And as I mentioned, this could be a little bit of a tricky part sometimes, so you don't feel like you need to rush. We have plenty of time. A lot of you have smaller fingers than me, so it might be a bit easier for many of you. And you're going to twist that on. And don't worry, sometimes it falls and goes through. So you might not have them on yet. That's okay. As I said, we're not We're not in a rush here, these first couple steps. And this is where we can take our pliers. So you might have a pair of pliers like this. You might have a needle nose pair of pliers with longer nose. And we're gonna hold on to that and we're gonna do it up. So none of the stuff on this little mBot robot we have to do up really, really tight because it's all just aluminum metal with plastic. So you don't want to crank on anything too tight and crack anything or do it up too much. Then what we're going to do is this little cord is going to come up through the top of the mBot, just like we see in the picture of step number 4. So as I mentioned, we're going to continue on, but this is the exact same steps just on the other side. So if you're still working through that, no problem. And if you're ready to go on to the next step, you'll go ahead and get the next motor. Same thing. We'll just put it on the other side, like so. We'll get 2 more of the long screws of the M3 by 25 millimeters, 2 more of the long ones. We'll go ahead and get the 2 M3 nuts. And just same as the last step, as I mentioned, the screws or bolts, they call them screws, they're actually bolts, but they will go through. Just like the last one, we might need to twist in order to get it through. We'll get this started and twist it. So these first couple steps that I said are some of the more challenging steps, but once we're done these first couple steps, we've got a mBot with 2 motors on it already. So we'll spend another couple minutes on this, just slowly finish so everybody can work away at it. I built these mBot robots a lot of time, and I know that different people in life learn and can do things at different speeds. So sometimes people are quick. If you've done this stuff before, this might be your first time building a robot or building something, and that's okay. You can always look back at the video that we've recorded here as well. There we go. So at this point, the wire will come up through the top, just like it's showing in step number 6 here. Both wires through the top, and we have 2 motors on this little mBot robot. So on to step 8, we're gonna run through these. Same thing, just like last time, we'll do one side, either the left or the right, it's fine. And then we'll do the other side. So we're gonna pull out the wheel, and then we're gonna get the M2.2 by 9 millimeter self-drilling screw. And what that is it's a little screw that's like a wood screw compared to these other ones that are the bigger bolts. We're not using these bigger bolts right now. We're using this little screw. That's the one. It shows in the instructions, same thing, coming from the side in order to install this. I've always found it works best if you turn it on its side. And you'll notice that the little mount of the motor, it's got a flat and 2 curved sides. So it's like a circle with 2 flats on it. The wheel is the same. So the wheel has 2 flats and a circle. So it'll only be able to go on in 2 directions. So you might have to twist it a little bit in order for it to go down onto there. And we'll just slowly start to turn that, and then that will be putting the wheel on there.
Hey, Sean, there's
Yes.
some feedback in the Q&A that it's going a bit fast. So I just
Okay.
want to honor that.
Yeah,
So
no
maybe
problem.
we can pause after the second wheel and see if people can get caught up. I've asked the participant to let me know where they're at so we can get an
Yeah.
idea.
Oh, no
Okay?
problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and we can
It's
just pause. Thanks for letting me know. We can just pause at this for a moment, because sometimes getting these little bolts on here, these little nuts, that is sometimes a challenge. Trying to like get that on there, or get the pliers on there. So yes, no problem. I appreciate you letting me know. Yeah, so we can just pause at that step. And people that are ready to go, you can get your steps, your next steps ready. You can get your wheel. You can get the screws ready for this. So some tricks to getting, if you're caught up at this step, some tricks to getting that on there is make sure you have it down on your table like this. Make sure that you can often have the screwdriver on the end here when you're holding it onto there.
And I do want to remind participants that you will be getting a copy of the recording. So, you know, if you don't finish your mBot during this Maker Lab, you will still have opportunity to access this video.
Absolutely. So we're just gonna slowly move along at a pace here. Please do let us know if you don't have the motors on yet. But at this point, we would be putting one of these wheels on. And then if you get the one wheel on, it actually sits really nice like this. In the end of the wheel, as I mentioned, you can kind of see it's round with two flaps on it. And that's kind of what locks it in. So this little part that's coming out of the motor is round with flap. So then it's gripping onto the wheel. So then as it drives, that's what's allowing it to transfer the energy. All right. So now at this point, if you're at this point yet, we shall have two wheels on. All right. Looks like the second motors are on. This is good. Yeah, and as I mentioned, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, especially these first couple steps. As I mentioned, these first couple steps are the ones where you're getting the motors on, you're getting the wheels on, you're getting fully set up. So yes, step 8 and 9 are to put the one wheel on. Step 10 and 11 is where we have the other wheels on. So I'll run through these next couple steps here, just at a moderate pace. And I'm going to, first of all, kind of explain what these parts are. So in step 12, we've got a line follower sensor. So what this is on this bottom side, it's got these couple little, they look like LED lights. And these are actually light sensors. So one will sense if if it's over top of something light, and the other one is a sensor if it's over top of something dark. Inside of your mBot kit comes the figure 8 you might have seen. And that little figure 8, the little figure 8 track, this little mBot robot can drive around that track. And what it does is through this light sensor, it can tell if it's on that line or not on that line. And what that'll do is drive in the figure 8. You can even make your own tracks. And there's another course later in this week on how to program your mBot. So we've got our little line follower sensor here. And we've got a mini wheel. And we've got 2 of these M4 by 8 millimeter screws. So you'll see that you have a whole bunch of these. They're these little ones, and these are the little ones with the hex head. So this is a point where you could go ahead and you can flip around your screwdriver. So on this side, you've got your Phillips or your star or your cross. You can flip it around, put on the hex side, and then that will fit nicely right into these little bolts. For the mini wheel, what we're going to be doing is the wheel is going to mount into the middle hole. So we have 1, 2, 3 on either side. It's this middle one right here that we're going to be screwing it into. So we have 1, 2, 3. It's this middle one on both sides. So it'll sit on just like that. If we flip our little mBot robot over, and now we're using the hex side of the screwdriver, as I mentioned. And the first one, we don't want to do it up all the way, because if we do it up all the way, it might be too tight to get the second bolt into there. And I'm going to run slowly through this step and talk about it a little bit so that everybody has a chance to be working on this. Same thing, we don't need to do anything up like super, super tight. It is all plastic with aluminum, so just do it up, just snug, just so it's fairly tight. And this is how it looks when that is on there. So we've got our little wheel there facing backwards. We've got the connector block at the back, and we've got our 2 little light sensors sticking out the front. And that's okay if you're still working on that one. But if you're ready to move on to the next, what you can do is you can find one of these cables. So there's 2 of these in your kit. So these 2 cables are the same as a data cable for for the internet, or back when they had phones that were attached to the wall more often. Not many houses have that anymore, but this would be the same as a phone cable, just that would plug into your wall. So we're going to take one of these, and it's going to come down through the top of the robot, and it can plug in. And you'll hear when it plugs in, it makes a definite little click. And you can't pull it out. There's only one way it can go on. So there's, on our little connector there, there's a little plastic tab on the top to lock it in. So when you first go to plug it in, it might be upside down or sideways, but there's only one way it can go in. And when it goes in, you get that click. It clicks right in there. So that's our first component. Component is a part of a machine or a part of a vehicle or a part of a robot. So that's our first main component. Yes, we have the motors, but those are kind of like the main drivers. This is a component which is going to be allowing us to program our robot in the future to follow a line. So the next couple of steps here are just what I had showed. So we have our cable, our J25 wire cable coming down to the top of the mBot, and then coming back around and clicking into the bottom. So that's simply what steps 15 and 16 are showing us here. So I'm going to explain the next component that we're going to be using on this mBot. And I'll talk about this. So if you're still kind of working through that last step, I'll be talking about this new component for a minute or two here, which will allow people to catch up if you're still working away. So this one right here is pretty cool. It looks like a couple of speakers, like maybe like a boombox or a little like speaker player. That's always what I thought it was. But this is actually an ultrasonic sensor. So similar to a whale or a dolphin or a submarine, what all those do is they send out a noise, an ultrasonic noise. That noise will bounce off of something and go back to it, and then it will know how far away it is. So that's exactly the same with our little mBot here. There's a mode where you can actually, it's called obstacle avoidance mode. And what it can do is it'll be driving along until it gets close to something like a couch or a wall or a foot or a cat or a dog, and then it'll go and it'll back up and turn. So this little sensor is very smart, and it will recognize how far away things are in order so that your mBot is not going to bump into things, called obstacle avoidance. The other thing that you'll see in this screen is we've got a happy little mBot. So you got a little face on here. It's pretty smiley. It's always pretty fun. And after this step, we're going to have a little mBot with eyes, like a little face actually. It's pretty fun. So we get our ultrasonic sensor, and then two more of these same bolts, same screws. So M4 by 8 millimeters. These are these ones. So two more of those. And they're going to go into the outside tube. So we have 1, 2, 3 spots on this sensor. They're going to go right here and right here. And when you put it over top, right above that little smiley face, you will see the two holes that the bolts are going to go into, just like that. Just put it on like that. And I always find it works good to just put one in and just slowly turn it. Don't need to use the screwdriver yet. There we go. And when they're both in, then they can both be gently tightened. So just like that, we got a happy little mBot. Yeah, they're pretty fun. So if you're still going through that, that's okay. If you're ready to move on, we're going to get the next chord. Same chord, RJ25, little telephone cord, and that's going to click in to the back of the sensor. Same thing, it's only, you can only go one way. At the top will be the little metal, the little plastic tab, and it'll click right into there. All right. So it's starting to look like a bit like an mBot. So we got our wires coming out, we got some wheels on there, some motors, a couple sensors. All right. Hopefully this is going good for everybody. I don't see any other questions at the moment or anything. So we'll just keep going along at a moderate pace here. This is a spot right now when, oh, sorry. First of all, I'll just run through on the video or on the screen here. So we did step 18 and we did step 19, and 20, which is to plug in our little mBot. So one thing to notice here, and I have been told that my screen is mirrored. so I'm not going to use left or right. I'm just going to use this side or this side. But you'll see on the screen here, we have the one cable coming out of this, and we have the other cables coming out of the other side. It'll be actually flipped around because my screen is mirrored. And just like on the instructions of the screen, we want the 3 wires to be sticking out of the other side and the 1 to be sticking out of the other side, because when we put the top of our mBot on, they need to plug into this side and this side. So before I move on to the next step, I'm going to just mention something. In the screenshots of the video that mBot gives you, they don't show the battery power pack that actually comes with your mBot. So this is what's come with your mBot right here. And this is where the 4 AA batteries are. Go ahead and put the batteries in if you're ready. If you still need to get the batteries or unpackage the batteries, that's okay, I'm just showing you. So this is the one right here that actually comes with the mBot. The one that they show in the instruction manual is this. So this is the same thing, but it is a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. So this is an additional thing that you can get from mBot. It allows you to plug in your mBot to a USB or to your computer in order to charge it. But I just wanted to mention that because when I'm going along in the steps and you see on the pictures of this on the screen, it's going to show you this. But I'm going to teach you how to put this battery pack in, because this is the one that you get. All right. So the next parts that we're going to get is we're gonna get these brass pieces right here. And these are actually what's going to hold up the brains, the computer of your mBot on here, because it can't just sit floating in midair. It's going to sit right on these things. So you'll see at the 4 corners of your mBot are little spots, little threaded holes. So they just simply go into the 4 corners. These don't need to be done up very, very tight. Same thing with everything else on the mBot. You don't need to get out the pliers and crank this on here or anything. We just need to do it up so it's snug. This is how it's going to be wanting to look. You have these 4 standoffs there. You have the 1 wire coming out of the side, the right side if you're looking at the top of it. And then on the left side, if you're looking from the top, will be the 3 wires coming out. So this is what I was mentioning. They're showing you this. This is the additional thing. Your kit might even actually come with this little box. I think it does, just the clear one. But we're using this one. There's also a little piece of Velcro. So there's a little sticky piece of Velcro. I've already put this on my mBot because I've built this thing several times. But what we're gonna do is that little piece of Velcro, you wanna peel off one of the sides of that sticky Velcro and just install your Velcro right at the back here.
Sean, I actually have a question about the battery packs, if
Yes.
you don't mind.
For sure.
Is it possible to interchange them? Like, I believe I did get the rechargeable piece. So is there anything about building it with the 4 AA's that will restrict you from potentially switching to the rechargeable battery in the future?
Oh, really good question, Tanya. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's a great question. They are fully interchangeable. So there's 2 different spots on the back. One plugs in the one that you comes with it, and one plugs in with the lithium ion one. So they are fully interchangeable. Yeah, good question. Yeah, it won't prevent you from being able to, and you can swap them out later. I think that they all come with the case here, but the actual battery is an extra thing that you can buy, I guess, from mBot, I think. So.
Oh yeah, I probably just have the case.
Yeah, so they give you the case, which is a bit of a waste, I guess. But I think that they want you to buy their batteries or something. They just send it out as additional parts. So this part, you could use it for something else, use it for your Legos or something.
Right.
And yeah, good question.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
For sure. Yeah, thanks for asking. So with the Velcro piece, you can pull out the top part of the Velcro piece, and what we're gonna do is we want our battery pack to just kind of sit. It sits right in here. It actually wedges in really good in between these brass pieces, but the Velcro is just a little bit more reinforcement so that as you're cruising along, your battery pack doesn't like fly out of the back of your mBot, and that would be chaos. So, so that's why we have the little Velcro piece on here. You do want to put your batteries in, because the first time I built this thing, I wasn't about the batteries going in, and then I put on the top of my mBot, did up all the bolts, and then I realized that I had to take off the top of my mBot in order to put all the batteries in. So this is the step where you do want to be putting in the batteries right at this point. So yeah, as I mentioned on the screen here, it's showing us the lithium ion battery. We're going to use our 4 AA batteries. So one thing to note with a brand new mBot, you're probably going to have a nice plastic, like a coating on here or something, maybe one even on the top. So you want to go ahead and peel that off. I built this little mBot many times, so it hasn't had the plastic on here for several years. So you do want to peel that off. And we're getting really close here, you guys. This is going really awesome. So we have a few more steps, and I'm gonna be running through this at a nice pace and talking through the steps so that people can have an opportunity to go through here. Yeah, so we do have our mBot core. This is called mCore. So inside of here is the brains. It's where a little computer is. It's got a little Bluetooth connector, so you can connect it via an app later on. It's got some different ports on the side, they're called. So you'll see the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 on there. You're going to see a little power switch on this side. That's how to power it off and on. And you're going to see a little motor control, M1 and M2. And on the back of it, you're going to see the 2 different battery ports. So we're going to be using the one that says 6V, which means 6 volts, because all these added up equals 6 volts. They're 1.5 volts each. So 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6 volts. That's what you're running this thing off, 6 volts. So these are the couple of things that I'm noting because later on at the end, we're going to plug in our power. We're going to be plugging in this side to the number 3. We're going to be plugging in this side to the number 2. And we will be plugging in these 2 motor connectors. So these are all a couple of things that we're going to be doing. This is where we need to have the one cable coming out. If you're looking at the top of your robot, you're coming out of the right-hand side. And you're going to have 3 cables coming out of the left-hand side. As I mentioned, my screen is mirrored, so just look at it and then have the 3 of them coming out of the left-hand side. This sits on here really nice. There's some spots that are carved out of the plastic when they molded it. So it sits right on top of this, super nice. And we're gonna get 4 more of these screws. So this might be a part where you arrive and you have extra parts. I don't, because I've already built mine many times, but don't be alarmed if you have extra parts, just like Lego. You know, when my kids are building Legos and you get all these little extra parts sometimes, they often have extra parts that they've given you. So if you've got a couple pieces and you're wondering where they go, as long as we've already installed all the ones we've talked about, you probably have extra parts. So I just want to tell you that. So these 4 go into the 4 spots. And this is where you really don't want to do it up too tight because we don't want to put a crack in the top case or anything. So these need to just be done up snug. Getting pretty close here. After this is done, this is the last thing we need to bolt on. And now it'll just be some plugging in of the different cables. So as we're plugging in the cables, I'll go over each step several times so everybody has a chance to review it fully. All right, so now we have the mBot. So if you're looking at the mBot from the top and you go to the right side, you're going to see a number 3 and number 4. Side you're looking for. Number 3, number 4. The one closest to the front of your robot is the number 3. So the cable that is coming up from the bottom that comes from the ultrasonic sensor on the top is going to loop up and it's going to connect right into this number 3, just like that. So ultrasonic sensor, come around, number 3. And click. It helps to tuck in this extra cord. So you've got a whole bunch of extra cord here. You can just tuck it right in. There we go. Makes it look nice. The other cable that comes up from the bottom, from the line follower, is going to go into the number 2. So the number 2 is on the other side of our robot, on the left-hand side if you're looking at it from the top. And this cable is going to come up and around and click right in. So this is what it should look like. You've got the number 3 on this side clicked in. You got the number 2 on this side clicked in. These two other ports are different things. You can get different sensors, you can get like a little screen, all that sort of stuff, and you can program that as you learn more with the mBot. But for right now, it's pretty awesome with what it's got. It's got the ultrasonic sensor, it's got the line follower, it's got a little remote control. I'll show you in a few. And all right. So do you remember a couple minutes ago when I said these motor controller, M2, M1 and M2? Right there. So motor controller, M1, M2. So that's what we're going to be connecting to. So we have our left-hand motor is coming up. So what I do is when I'm looking at the mBot from the top, I know which is my left hand. I flip over the mBot and I find which of these two cables is coming up. So if I jiggle it, oh no, that's the one coming from the right motor. Okay, if I pull this cable, oh, I can see that's definitely the cable that's connected to my left-hand motor. And the left hand is going to go into the M1. The other one's going to go to M2. So if these are switched around, it's not a huge deal. And you'll find out right as soon as you're running your mBot, because if the left is on the right and the right is on the left, it'll actually make your mBot drive backwards. It's kind of funny. So if you go, and I'll show you in a couple minutes here, if you go with your remote control and you press forward, your little mBot goes backwards. These two just need to be switched back around. It's not going to ruin your mBot, no big a deal. So what we would do, and I'll show you how to do that, we would just turn off the power and switch those two around. So we'll do our best, as I mentioned, to hold it on the left-hand side, flip it over, and find which is the left motor coming up, the wire to go into the M1. But as I mentioned, if they happen to be switched back and forth, we can easily fix that in a couple minutes here. So here's what we've got. We've got this side coming up to the number 3, clicked in there. This side coming up to the number 2, it's clicked in there. And we have our 2 motor controllers right there. This is where the battery cord will come out. As mentioned, it's the different cord, and it's going to plug right into this 6 volt, the middle one right there. That's where the battery cord's going to plug into. While you're at it, with regards to the batteries, you can take this little CR2025 battery. It's like a big watch battery or something. And what you can do is, on your little remote control, it's got on the back side this piece that comes out. And that battery is going to sit in there. If you can see, it sits better one way. If it's upside down, it doesn't sit that nice. If it sits with the plus side up, so you'll see there's a little X or a little plus on that little battery. That will face up, and then it will go into your little remote control. Well, at this point, we have a fully assembled mBot robot. This little guy or little girl is ready to be controlled by the remote, which I'll show you in a couple minutes here. It can also be controlled by an app or by a program that you can run online. And I think Noah will be teaching you a little bit later in the week on how to do that. And then that's going to allow you to do your little competition. But today we built the robot. I had super fun doing it. I hope everybody's at this step. If we're not quite at this step, as Tanya mentioned, as we've mentioned several times, you can go back and watch the video at your own pace. So I hope everybody has as much fun as I did. I really enjoyed building this little robot. My kids enjoy building it. It sounds like Tanya's kids enjoyed building it. It is fun for students to build.
Thank you so much, Sean. I'm
You're
going
welcome.
to invite anybody to ask any last minute questions. We do have a few minutes left, so now's the time. If you have any further questions for our instructor, Sean, you can add those to the Q&A now.
And I'll just wait a sec to see if any questions pop up, and then I'll show you turning on the robot and the little remote control. So we'll just give everybody a couple, 10, 20 seconds here.
Well, it looks like you did an excellent job, Sean, because I don't see any more questions coming through. So if you want to move on to the remote control, that would be great.
Great, thank you. Yeah, sorry it was a bit quick at the beginning, but it seemed like everybody caught up, and that's good. Thanks for letting it be known. That's great. So we have our mBot robot. On the top by the motor controller, you'll see a switch and it says power off, power on. So at this point, I have this tiny little table here, but I'm installing, using to build this thing. You don't want to really be right near the edge of your table. You don't want to drive your brand new mBot right off the table. So it might be good to put it on the floor. But right now, so if I turn the power switch on, this is what the mBot does every time. So it goes through a series of 3 lights and 3 noises to let you know that it's ready. With our little remote control, we can aim it. Well, it looks like the battery is gone on this little remote control. I just used it last week too. Sorry about that. I don't have another one right here, but with this remote control, you can press forward, and the forward right here, if you aim at the back of your mBot, will drive your mBot forward if your battery is working great. So if you press forward and it goes forward, that's great. As I mentioned, if you press forward and it actually goes backwards, this is where you'll turn your little mBot off. And then you would switch these 2 power cords, the M1 and M2. You would actually switch them around. And you can see I've actually put a dot on one of mine so that I know which to go into the first one. Oh, thank you. Laura has brought me another remote, so we'll try it. Thank you, Laura. Sorry about that, you guys. I guess that's what happens when you're doing a live recording sometimes. We did test the batteries out before. So at this point, I know that on the next instructions, they're gonna go over the different controls of the mBot, but the A mode, forward and backwards, and the numbers are what's gonna allow you to change the speed of your little robot. So 1 will be slower, 9 will be faster, and you can simply just drive it around. You'll notice something that if you have a sibling or a friend with the robots that's close, one remote control can actually control several mBots. So you might want to be in your own little space, in your own little spot, in order to not have your mBot robot being zoomed around by everybody. Well, it sure has been fun to help you guys all. I appreciate everybody following along. Sure has been fun to help you guys all build the mBot robot, and happy learning. Keep having fun.
Thank you. So much, Sean. That was so much fun. And it's so funny about the remotes because that's something that would happen to most parents anyway. So we're giving you guys the uncut version, so it's fine. Okay, I want to let our participants know a few more things about the rest of the week and next week as well. So first of all, thank you so much for viewing our webinar, How to Build Your mBot. You can also visit, and maybe Laura, my colleague, can throw this link in the chat for everybody. You can visit Live It Earth, our production partners, liveit.earth/robot-week. And you can see a pre-recorded video of Sean going through this exact same workshop, but we will be sending you a recording of this Maker Lab, this specific Maker Lab. I just wanted to share that link because there are resources already online for you, and that is the same link where you're going to be accessing the Discovery Foundation Robot Week next week. Now, this week, you can come back and take our second Maker Lab, which is how to program your mBot, on Thursday, June 11th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So we really hope to see you there so that you can learn all the special tricks, all the maneuvers for your obstacle course through block coding. Hopefully in your instruction manual, you'll see the apps that you get to use. I can actually pull them up right now. I'm going off script here, people. If you want to check out the apps for the coding before our next Maker Lab, How to Program Your mBot, you can download the app MakeBlock and also mBlock Blocky. So if you just put MakeBlock into the App Store or Google Play Store, you can find those two apps and maybe start playing around before we instruct you on the block coding to maneuver your mBot this coming Thursday. So between now and Thursday, we hope that you have fun with your mBot. Of course, you can always visit us at cast.com/robotweek. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask by emailing us, glows@cast.com. If you took any photos tonight, we would love for you to share them with us via email or on our Facebook page, Glows, or by sharing on your own social media and using the hashtag GlowsRobotWeek. Thank you so much for being with us. On behalf of Glows, CAST, the Discovery Foundation, and Live It, we really appreciate your time. Have fun with your new mBot.